Thanks, Eric. Yeah, this is, believe it or not, this is my first presentation. That's a sales presentation. So my name is Gabe Knuth, and if you don't know me from meeting me at an event or something like that, I've been at brianmadden.com for the last 11 years. I just recently switched to working for FSLogix. I'm a product marketing manager for them. And before all of that, I was a consultant and admin, and I joined FSLogix in part because they solved problems I had back when I was an admin. So there's a lot of great stuff going on here. So I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to be at this event because this looks like a pretty cool lineup. Uh, PowerPoint, right? There we go. So one of the reasons I joined FSLogix is because I believe this is actually true. I mean, FSLogix is the leading innovator of solutions that reduce the amount of hardware, time, and labor required to support desktop virtualization. I wouldn't be here if I didn't think that was 100% true. I didn't write that, but it's like somebody crawled inside my brain. I fundamentally believe that everything we do is to make admins' lives easier, and that's very important to me. And we do this with a platform that's designed from the ground up to work on desktops that are in any location and on any platform, and on premises or in the cloud as well. Our leadership is, again, one of the reasons I joined. We've got Kevin Goodman, who was the CEO of RTO Software. He sold that to VMware, stayed on at VMware for a while. Randy Cook built another company called FSLogix. Now maybe you get the name, how he came up with FSLogix. Randy, I can't explain how awesome these guys are at what they do at building software, at building businesses. This again is one of the reasons that I joined FSLogix and why you should feel comfortable with just about everything we do. We've got 400 or so global customers. I think it's over 400 now. These customers span all sorts of verticals, anything you can imagine: healthcare, government, finance, education, insurance, architecture. We've worked with customers across all of these different verticals, and so we know how our solutions play in lots of different areas. We also have 140 plus global partners. And these guys, we couldn't be what we are today without them. They are around the world implementing, supporting, and providing education about our products. And finally, we also have several alliance partners. We work very closely with Microsoft, Citrix, AWS, and VMware for our technology. And we again could not be where we are without our alliance partners. There are several active community members out there. I'm sure many of you know Rory, Frake, James, and Aaron. These guys have been very supportive of us, and they've also been critical of us at times when they need to be. And we take everything they say in and try to make the best decisions based on their feedback. And many, many others out there, it's just too many to put on a slide. Again, though, I want to shout out these guys specifically. They've been awesome, and they are awesome people, and so we're happy to have them as parts of our community. And the last bit about community is that we've actually attracted some of them to come work for us, myself included. This is another reason I chose to join FSLogix, is because I get to work with the likes of Jim Moyle and Benny Trish and several other people that are here. And to get that kind of buy-in, to have community members that believe in the products so much that they want to actually work for that company, I think is really cool. And so that's my favorite part about working for FSLogix these days. So it's a 15-minute session with a few minutes for Q&A. So I can't go into a ton of detail here, but what I want to do is go through our products and what each one of these things can do to help you be a better administrator in your environment. And one of the things I really enjoy about FSLogix stuff is that it's all really easy to implement, and you can be, I don't want to say immediately more effective after you install it, but with a very short on-ramp period, you can be better at your job. Our Office 365 container, it enables true cached exchange mode. I mean, this is it has other features, but this is the thing that I think people need to realize. It enables true cached exchange mode with our patent pending OST containerization. And even though we call it the Office 365 container, it works for all versions of Office. And the way this works is FSLogix itself installs, it's not a platform that we build all of our desktops on. There's no huge backend infrastructure or something that has to be deployed for it. You install FSLogix in your base image and then drop some configurations on it, and we take care of the rest. And in the case of Office 365 Container, we actually copy out the Office data itself. So OST files, Skype for Business Gal, even the Windows search database, OneDrive index, things like that. We put them into a network-based container. It's just a VHD file. And then we mount that, I went backwards. We mount that natively in Windows directly. And then what FSLogix does is takes that container and makes it appear in the exact location that the users and Windows applications expect it to be. And we don't do this with junctions or symlinks, that kind of a thing, because that takes away certain functionality like recycle bin or enhanced protected mode. Our approach to it preserves those things, which means we still preserve a full user experience with full security. Office 365 Container is cache and roaming for Outlook, OneDrive, OneNote, Skype for Business Gal, Click to Run. It's compatible with all Exchange deployments from on-premises to in the cloud. So it doesn't have to be Office 365. You can be running on-prem Exchange. You can be running on-prem Exchange 2003 if you want to be. It would still work to compartmentalize that OST file, or to roam the OST file. It's all but required in non-persistent VDI and load-balanced RDSH farms, since we've all know, because we've all tried to place an OST file in an SMB share, and we've all failed miserably at that. If you have those kinds of environments, you need this solution. And also, I don't want to overshadow the point or understate the point that it enables Windows search roaming, which is another one of those features that for our non-persistent users or RDSH users, Windows search roaming has not been a thing since it was released because we can't maintain that index, and we again can't put that on an SMB share. So there's a few things here that Office 365 Container does that we're really proud of, really happy with, and a lot of it is fixing problems that we've had for over a decade. Our profile container is similar in terms of the PowerPoint build. We encapsulate the entire user profile, including the registry, in a container. And so again, we're taking that information out of the image and we're putting that into a network-based VHD container. Then FSLogix is, we're facilitating attaching that to Windows directly and then placing the user profile data back in where our users and applications expect that data to be. And with this approach, we're talking real-time access to user profiles. We're not copying the data out of the VHD down to the local machine. We're attaching that VHD and providing visibility for the users and applications to the data that resides in the VHD. And so as we need stuff to execute locally, it will just copy the things down, but it's to copy them into memory so that the applications can access them. This results in extremely fast login times because since we're not shipping the data around, we don't have to wait for it to copy to the local machine. It also means that because we're not shipping that data, that I'm not going to say completely eliminated profile corruption, but we've removed a lot of the different factors that have caused profile corruption. So I'm sure, despite our best efforts, Microsoft can find a way, or Microsoft people, end users, there are still ways to corrupt a profile, but we've virtually eliminated all the main causes of it. Also, because we're not using any folder redirection or roaming profiles, we're not creating this little mini denial of service attack on your file servers that folder redirection has caused. We also, and because of that too, we eliminate file server bottlenecks with this just-in-time file copy across the network. So Profile Container has been one of our most popular products just because the approach to it is so simple. By removing it and then just attaching it and not copying the file data down, it saves a lot of people a lot of time on logins. Next up is app masking, which was really our first product, and it was created to solve problems that organizations had with managing multiple base images and application silos. We all would love to have a single image, and we can't do that because we've never been able to do that. And or if we did, it was back in like the 1900s when the last time we had one single base image. So what FSLogix decided to do was to come up with a different approach from what we were used to doing, the packaging and the sequencing and things like that. Instead of putting all the, having all the different base images or creating packages for all of your applications and making sure they all interact with each other, FSLogix decided let's put as many applications into a base image as we can. And we don't promise that you can get to a single base image. There may still be some extenuating circumstances that make it not feasible. But if you have 20 base images now and you can go down to 5, that's still a meaningful improvement. FSLogix application masking works at the kernel level to dynamically mask the presence of apps. It also works with plugins and fonts and things like that. We can assign applications, write these policies for users, groups, computers, processes, network locations, all sorts of different things. And the approach that we use is basically, again, we're using that FSLogix application. Really, it's like I say, it's not a platform or a layer or anything like that. Once we install FSLogix, we can write rules, which are just files that we copy into the appropriate location, and you can do that with SCCM or group policy or whatever you would use to put files on a desktop. And once we put that file on there, it acts as a sort of lens that goes in between the user and user mode in Windows to only show applications that we want the users to see. By doing this, Windows doesn't even believe that the applications beneath it are there. And so we have a license compliance element to this that I'll get into in a minute. Because we're working the way we work, we can also just switch out what configurations we send to the device to get new sets of applications exposed to the end user without logons or without logging on again or anything like that. We can say, oh wait, you need to get these applications. Here's a new config file. Boom, here's your applications. Now here's where the licensing comes in. You'll notice on this slide we've got the red Acrobat, which we'll say represents Acrobat Pro, and down at the bottom we have the white Acrobat that's hidden because let's say that's Acrobat Reader. In the past, what would we do? We'd either have separate images or we'd have one image that had both on there, and we would deny execute rights for Acrobat Pro to everybody. And while that might have passed our straight face test, it did not pass Adobe's licensing test. And with any of those older solutions, it either cost us more money or we had to have multiple images, or we spent a lot of time navigating licensing issues. With FSLogix, when we hide that application, it's hidden and it's gone. And from Adobe's perspective, even though it's technically in the base image, from Adobe's perspective, that app's not installed, and so it doesn't count as a license. I forgot I had pretty yellow circles to go around that. Our last product here is Java Control. And Java Control is one of those things, it if you need it. It allows you to run each app with the specific version of Java required for full application compatibility, which means we can co-locate multiple versions of Java on the same Windows image. And so basically the process is exactly what you see on the screen. You can choose either an application or URL. If it's a URL, you type in the URL, and then you choose which version of Java you want to use for that URL. And that means that while we may have these legacy versions of Java on a machine, they're all hidden unless they need to be to support a specific application. And for every other application, we either get to specify which version of Java it is, or it defaults to the latest version, in which case we don't have to worry about it. And so there's a security element here too, because we're reducing the security risk associated with having these older versions of Java running on the machines. And so while this may be the quickest to describe, it's also one that's immediately helpful for a lot of people. And so if you have multiple versions of Java, you probably need this. So we built our whole suite of products as our whole line of products as both a full suite and as individual modules. And so, if all of these things sound interesting, you can acquire FSLogix apps is what we call the suite, but I wanted to call it the full suite here to make it more clear that it's not just the apps part. So we have our FSLogix full suite, or we realized that companies have already made investments in other profile management or application management platforms, and still might be able to benefit from Java Control or Office 365 Container or some mix of these things. And so we've also broken these things out as individual modules. And so you don't have to buy into the whole FSLogix suite. We sure wish you would, but we also have these individual modules as well. We've gotten some really great independent references. Eric, how am I on time? I didn't start my timer.
Yeah, you are 5 minutes left.
Okay, good. Cool. All right. So we have we've got some independent references out there that I think are pretty cool. Microsoft actually commissioned 2 different studies. One dealing with Outlook search in non-persistent environments, and they found that FSLogix's Office 365 container exceeds UPD and Outlook search functionality. That users see search results immediately and with a significant improvement in user experience. And to get this from Microsoft, I think is pretty cool. These are the kinds of things that I think make FSLogix special. The fact that guys like Kevin and Randy have this deep ties to Microsoft, and the fact that we can show them that we have immediate value as well. Another one from Microsoft was looking at OneDrive for Business in non-persistent environments. And again, the findings showed that FSLogix Office 365 container works well for OneDrive for Business because the local cache is stored in the FSLogix container, and because then it follows the user as it roams. And again, once that stuff is stored in the container, it's not being copied down. All we're doing is attaching that container wherever the user happens to be. And last up is a guy named David Wilkinson, who put FSLogix Office 365 container up against all the other top competition in Office 365 non-persistent enablement space. And he decided that based on his testing that FSLogix Office 365 containers meets all of his challenges, including being profile agnostic and allowing concurrent access by multiple sessions for their Office 365 product. There's a few case studies here that I think are very interesting. The first one is a leading global architecture firm. We don't have a ton of time, so I'm not going to spend forever on this, but they had terrible CAD performance, lots of lots of silos in their server farm, and just trouble finishing their Citrix deployments. After deploying the entire FSLogix app suite, they ended up with sub 15-second login times. They eliminated the server silos and a lot of appli packaging. They consolidated 13 images into one gold image for all global users. So there, I mean, it's not always possible, but it's definitely something that happens. And they consolidated all of their versions of Java into a single image, which resulted in a 40% reduction in infrastructure management costs. We also have Cherry Health, and I specifically made this slide because of all the different case studies that we have. I really like what Cherry Health is doing because they're a Michigan-based nonprofit healthcare system for people without insurance. And I believe that these people still need to have care, and that's what this company does. Without being slave to the insurance agencies and things like that. They're doing it without they're doing it for good reasons. And so their situation was they like a lot of people migrated to Office 365 and then didn't realize the impact it would have on their environment, on their virtual desktops. The performance was so bad that they considered reverting back to on-premises Exchange servers. And with our Office 365 container, we were able to change their entire environment around. So we saved them over 11,000 hours annually. And this includes care, doctors and nurses. And so that time savings, we were told, amounts to about 70,000 patient visits. So by deploying Office 365 container, Cherry Health was able to see tens of thousands of more patients. And that, I think, is really cool. So the last slide here is we have an upcoming product launch webinar that we're going to do right here with Eric at zenappblog.com. It's codenamed CCD, and it's on May 2nd, 2018. We're going to do it at noon Eastern time. in this webinar, we're going to show you a new way to look at your users' data. And it's going to be a way in which the data can be fully optimized, highly available, and fault tolerant, regardless of where it resides. CCD, codename CCD, is the culmination of thousands of hours of engineering as well as input from our 400 customers and our key partners like Amazon, Citrix, Frame, Microsoft, and VMware. I really hope you tune in and see how you can eliminate typical everyday problems that are associated with maintaining Windows desktops. And we can do it, I think, at the lowest possible price. And so we really look forward to seeing you there. Check back at zenappblog.com. Where Eric's going to post the registration, and we'll have some stuff if you follow us on Twitter and check our blog as well. You can find white papers, product information, documentation, and blogs on FSLogix.com. And thank you very much.